Okay, and then this part. It's working.
Welcome to Photography Chat with Merlin. Photography Chat with Merlin.
Mocha only did it for me.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I bought a skateboard off of him. Like maybe like 7-8 years ago, and had no idea it would turn into some kind of friendship. And he's a really interesting cat, and it's always good to support your pals. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, how are you doing?
I'm okay. I just got in, so good timing.
Yeah, so it's we're Photography Chat, season 3, episode 6 with Ashely. And is it 6? Yes, it is the 6th episode. And what's Toronto like tonight?
It's kind of mild, so it's kind of nice. Like, I guess. I mean, as far as winter goes, like, it's kind of mild. I mean, it's nice, but also obviously not nice because mild's not good. But, I am enjoying wearing a lighter coat. Other than that, I don't know. Toronto is the same.
Yeah, you guys kind of got spanked a little hard with snow there for a bit.
We really did. My street, still the sidewalks aren't like plowed. So I assume it's just going to be like this now.
Well, maybe the Freedom Convoy can like grab some shovels and, dig stuff up when they come to town.
Oh my God. Oh boy.
Sorry.
Next subject.
Sorry, I didn't mean to like trigger you right out of the gate.
No, not at all.
So why don't you take a second to like, oh, hey, it's Kitty. What's up, guy?
Sir Theodore. Yeah.
I haven't seen Theodore in ages.
Oh,
he's like, obviously, you can't do this without me, lady.
He's very feisty. He looked like he was about to like grab me. So yeah, no. He'll come back though. He'll be very intrigued. He'll be upset that I'm ignoring him. So he'll be back.
As cats usually do. That's kind of normal for them, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, so I'm Ashely. I just saw someone, what they said, the Freedom Convoy.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Chris. I mentioned the Flu Trucks clan. What is it? The Flu Trucks clan? Yeah.
Flu Trucks clan. Yeah. Anyway, that has nothing to do with who I am.
Yes.
I am a fine artist and photographer and retoucher out of Toronto. I obviously wear a lot of hats. But I primarily work with portraiture, and in the retouching world, I do a lot of commercial stuff with like food and products. I don't know. I'm not really great at talking about myself, so it's about
that's
as much
fair.
as I got.
So I've always been kind of curious about the retouching thing, and I never thought to ask it when we were hanging out in Toronto. Like, how did you get into retouching?
I have always really enjoyed photo editing. Like when I went to school for photography, and we had like editing classes, and I always just really enjoyed that process. And then a few years ago, I applied for a job with like a small little company here in Toronto that was looking for a retoucher to help them out. And I started doing that and I really liked it, just like sitting and just focusing on editing, and it wasn't my work that I was editing. And I kind of enjoyed getting to like separate myself a little bit, because I don't know, I know you work a lot in film, so you're probably not spending a ton of time in post, but like when you're editing your own work, you can get like so attached to it, and then it can take forever. So it's kind of nice getting to just like detach and just do a process. And then honestly, when the pandemic hit and I like couldn't really work, like I wasn't able to do portrait sessions, I actually stopped working for that company because they weren't getting work, so they didn't need me. I decided that like I would just focus more on trying to get more of those jobs. It meant I could just be at home and I didn't have to like worry too much about being out in the world. And I started focusing more on building retouching work and client base and stuff. And now it's like pretty big part of what I do on a week to week basis. As a lot of it is doing retouching. 'Cause I honestly really love it. I'm really good at it. And being an artist just kind of like informed that. Like I'm good at finding creative solutions to those kinds of problems. And I actually just really genuinely enjoy it. So it's been fun kind of getting to focus on that.
That's really cool. I'm kind of curious. So it's like when you're retouching, you're seeing like a variety of different work then, because it's coming from all kinds of different creatives.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find like when you're seeing that like vast variety of work that being exposed to that kind of maybe influences you or gives you ideas to try something different because you saw something in one of the projects you were working on that you're just like, hey, that's kind of neat. Maybe I'll give that a shot.
Honestly, sometimes. So I sometimes work with wedding photographers, which isn't an area that I work in much as a photographer. So I was working with a photographer here in Toronto a bit through her last two previous seasons, and she's really, really good. And I loved getting to see her approach. And I ended up shooting a wedding in the summertime. And I definitely found myself kind of like thinking about like, I wonder like what spring would do, you know? And like that kind of helped me. I think it made me better at that job because I just like, I did have a little bit of influence from seeing what I really loved about what she did and kind of just like adapting maybe a little bit. In an area that I don't really work a ton, it was kind of nice to be able to pull a little bit and just think a little differently instead of like approaching it how I might usually approach it. I tried to like look at it a little differently, and I found that influence really, really helpful. So it definitely does influence things I do sometimes.
That's really cool. Yeah. You're right, like, because I predominantly shoot film. I don't spend a lot of time editing. Well, I didn't spend a lot of time editing, but, since moving to Vancouver and losing the easy access that I had taken so for granted to downtown camera, I found myself shooting more digital. And, I know that you're a big Nikon fan, and I do love my Nikon film cameras, but I have switched to Fuji for digital since moving to Vancouver.
I mean, I'm not a Nikon bro. It's just like because of circumstance. Like I went to a school that was a Nikon school, so we learned on Nikon. And then I got a job at Nikon and I had access to Nikon and I learned a lot about how the gear worked. So it's like hard for me to want to leave because I understand like an inner workings of their cameras that I don't have that knowledge of any other like company. Not to say I would never switch. It's just like, the effort.
That's fair.
Yeah. It's a lot of effort. And personally, because of the kind of things that I focus on, I just don't think that switching to any brand, like I don't think it's going to make a difference to what I'm doing. Like it's not like I understand where there are benefits and pros and cons of like everyone, but I just genuinely don't think it's going to affect me. So why go through all that,
No, I totally agree with that. And like the main reason that I ended up switching was the Nikon that I had. I didn't really like it for street photography. It was just too chunky because I had a D610 and they're just like, and which is well, and it's a hilarious thing to say that the D610 is too chunky when like my main camera that I used almost all the time is a Nikon F5, and that thing is like an absolute tank, but.
Absolutely.
It doesn't. It's different. It doesn't feel like a tank when you're using it. Like the 610, it just felt kind of awkward. Like it was kind of small, but it wasn't. It was just like, I don't know. I never really enjoyed the camera the whole time I owned it, and then.
That's fair.
Big Head Taco convinced me to give Fuji a fighting chance, and now we have a toxic relationship.
I like Fuji, and if I was going to switch, like I feel like they would be a pretty good like chance that I would switch. I have thought about wanting to change my camera setup because like when I'm out and about, I do find my setup just so it's so cumbersome, and like I don't like taking it out. But you know, I don't know. I ended up buying a point and shoot, like a Leica, I think point and shoot.
Oh, nice.
It's like, I think it's a Leica. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's like a crop sensor situation, but like it allows me to have something on my person that doesn't weigh 1,000,000 pounds. So that one's my only other one for now.
Yeah, Chris made a sideways comment here. He's like, all that Nikon experience is still trumped by the opinion of one Nikon bro who just switched yesterday.
Oh yeah, for sure. I worked at Nikon and dealt with a lot of customers, so I got to definitely experience the Nikon bro sometimes.
So how did you end up at Nikon?
Because of my school, we had like a close relationship. They have a close relationship with Nikon. I ended up getting an internship there between semesters or between years or whatever. I got an internship, a paid internship at least, at Nikon. And then when I graduated, they offered me a full-time job. But while I was around cameras, it wasn't like I was shooting or doing anything creative. So I didn't last very long. It just wasn't what I wanted to be doing. So.
That's fair. So it was like more of a customer support kind of thing.
Yeah, I did like tech support. And
no.
Yeah, so like people would call to be like, my camera doesn't turn on, or like sometimes it would be really simple things, and then sometimes it would be like I would have to like research like how people would stump me every day. Like they had the craziest questions or trying to do something, and like but the upside is that that's why I learned so much about the inner workings. I worked with like the repair people, and I got to like understand a little more about how they worked. And that's like really valuable information to have about your camera, which is why I'm so resistant to give it up.
I wouldn't blame you either. I'd be in the same boat. It's just so weird because like I'm not gentle to any of my equipment, and it still works pretty well. So it's like I can't fathom like what other people do to their things that break them in such wild ways. What was the wildest thing you saw?
Oh man. There was like, after the eclipse, there was an eclipse that happened. Had a bunch of people come in to be like, there's something wrong with my shutter. And, you know, just knowing the date, I'm like, oh, this person, like totally, they were describing their problem, having like a black spot, like in the viewfinder. I'm like, oh, did you like take pictures of the eclipse? And like,
and then they burnt the sensor out.
Oh, no, it was actually that. So I don't know if you've ever looked in the body and lifted up the sensor, and there's like the shutter blades behind it. Yeah. Like there was straight up like a hole burned through the shutter blades from like pointing it at the eclipse.
Holy shit.
It was just like perfectly like laser cut through the shutter blades. That was probably one of the craziest things I saw, where I was like, whoa, like right through there. And I thought it was kind of amazing. And it's a really expensive repair. And when you look at them, like if you look at the part just out, it just looks like some plastic. But it's a very expensive repair to have done.
Yeah, Boy Buddha here says, can vouch that repairs going to Nikon were unreal. Former camera store salesperson.
Yeah, Vanessa worked for Henry's. I don't think she still does.
That's fair. Oh, Henry's.
Yeah, oh, Henry's.
Yeah, in the photo school, I know another friend of ours you went to school with there. One of my favorite people to take photos with, Mara.
Yeah, that's how I met Mara.
That's cool. So, like, how did you get started, like, interested in photography and wanting to pursue this path?
Well, I've, like, kind of always been taking pictures, you know? Like, growing up, I was always, like, the kid who would have a camera. And then when I was 16, I bought my first DSLR, and I really wanted to take pictures of bands. I like grew up in the music scene in St. Catharines, like going to shows, and I wanted to be more involved with it. And I ended up buying a DSLR, and I started like sometimes I would shoot, like bring it to concert, like shows, or whatever, downtown St. Catharines, and I'd shoot bands. Tried shooting pictures, like landscapes or whatever, and then I kind of like just built on that for like the next however long, 8 years maybe. And then I lived abroad for a while, and I moved home, and I had like no plan in front of me. I like moved home from Ireland, had quit my job there. I was back home and kind of just like didn't know what to do. I was like, you know, I didn't want to do what I was doing before I left Canada. I didn't want to do what I was doing in Ireland. Even though I liked it, it was like not the thing I wanted to like move forward with. And then I kind of was just stuck. Like I just didn't know. And my then mother-in-law, who I was staying with at the time, she used to be a guidance counselor, and she always like was good to kind of like give guidance and advice and stuff. And she kind of like even she was like a little snarky about it, was like, I don't understand why you just don't like be a photographer, and you clearly really like it. And I was like, yeah, well, like I like a lot of things, and like, you know, that's not a realistic career path. She's like, oh, why not? And so I was like, fine, whatever. I'm not doing anything better with my life. Like, I'll just apply for some schools and we'll see what happens. And I, like a week before the open house, I got accepted to Niagara. And I went and I checked it out, the studio, and I was like, yeah, okay, fine. You know, I'll go and I'll try. And if, you know, I can always drop out and get my money back within the first like month or whatever. So I thought I was just like, I wasn't doing anything better with my time. And then I ended up like, you know, first day was like, oh yeah, this is the thing. Like, I just loved it. And kind of just like fell right into it. So then the rest is history, I guess.
That's fair. It's an interesting way to get started. I was also curious about like, you know, some of the work that you sent in and shared, and some of the stuff you post, like the manipulations you do and stuff. Like, you know, what was the sort of thing that made you think of trying that, like going down that path with like creating these really surreal, sometimes visceral images?
So school, again, we had a project in my studio photography class to create a composite that was like, you had to shoot all the parts in the studio. And yeah, that was like the first project. And I like hated it. I hated the project so much. It was just like, I'd never done anything like that before. And I'm like a perfectionist and really detail oriented when it comes to editing. So I just like tortured myself over it, and I really hated doing it. But then my one teacher, she loved it. She was like, it's amazing. I love it. She had another assignment, and she was like, I want you to do this. I want you to do 5 of them. I was like, okay. I didn't have a better idea for this assignment, so I just accepted her suggestion. And after doing 5 more of them, I just like loved it. I was like, yeah, okay, I love it. I like being able to create this like combination of reality and fantasy or surrealism or what have you. I liked being able to kind of take a part of reality and just like, I don't know, yeah, change it. I don't know, do whatever my brain thinks about. I just really enjoyed that process. And it allowed me to combine something that I really love. Like I take all the photography, like all the photos that I use in my work are things that I've taken. So I get to combine that skill, and then like, I don't know, it's like more fun. It makes me kind of like, I've never really been into like drawing or anything like that, but it sort of feels like that when I'm creating it. It feels more like more physical. Even though I'm creating something that's digital, the process feels much more physical and feels like I'm creating something like with my hands, sort of.
Yeah, I can see that. Like you definitely do create some like interesting environments with some of the images you've created.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I've always really dug that work. Are you at some point ever thinking of like maybe like putting a book together or like doing like a showing of your stuff?
For sure. Book would definitely be a down the line goal. I'm not in a place where I think I have enough things to warrant that, but it's something I absolutely see down the line. I do have a goal this year to have my work have some sort of show of some sort. I've taken part in like 2 shows, but they weren't my shows. I was just like a part of them. I really want to put together my own show, hopefully this year, because I have a lot more work now to show, and I have some projects that I'm like working through that I would love to see like printed really big.
That'd be really cool. Like when you
And,
say
like,
really
obviously
big,
for
like
people
how
to
big?
know. Like ideally probably at least like 24 by 36.
Damn,
I'd
that's
say.
huge.
Yeah, I have one actually of Mara that I created. I have it printed 24 by 36 and it looks great. And I love seeing it big. Like I envision creating like a piece that fits an entire wall. Like, you know, I can't think of a specific movie, but there's definitely like movies or shows where they go into like a rich person's house and she has like this like commissioned piece of her that takes up the whole wall. And it's probably like some hot painting of her or something. But like that like energy of something that just takes up the entire space, like I want to do that.
That's
Maybe not for the show this year, like that's a bit big, but like that's what I would like to do. I want to make some like really big art.
That makes me think of Maud from The Big Lebowski, like the painting lady in it, where she makes these like massive paintings and things. And
I've never seen The Big Lebowski.
sorry, my bad. It's a great movie. You know, even Jeff Bridges, attests to that. He's just like, he's a clicker, and he admitted on like some interview, he's like, I get sucked into them. I'm just like, I'll just like watch 5 minutes, and it's like, I'll just watch the part when John Turturro licks the ball, and then it just like, you know, he's like, then I end up just watching the whole damn thing because it's so good.
Yeah, for sure. I love this comment here that they love to see more Zines or mini books instead of scrolling, and I totally agree. I like definitely want to contribute to more physical media. I think it would be nice to see more. I loved like when you released your book, I was really excited. I was like, yes, okay, I like want to have something tangible, you know? It's so nice looking at things tangibly, and we don't do it enough anymore.
Thank you. I appreciate you supporting that too. Like that was, I struggled with it a little bit because it had been made for several fucking months. And I was just like, do I put it out or not? Like it felt a little personal and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was also like, I didn't do it the way that I really wanted to release it, because I kind of wanted to do like the first book where I did like a limited run of them that I like prepaid for myself that people could buy from me. And then I signed them and like gave each one like everyone got a print with them kind of thing.
That's cool.
And that was part of why I pushed it out for so long after it was made, was because I was just like, I didn't have the capacity to like do all that work. And I'm like, oh, maybe soon it'll come back, because it's just since the head stuff, I'm not the same person that I was when I made the first book in a lot of different ways. But then I was just like, I need to get this out before the end of 2021, because the inside of it says 2021 and I don't want to fuck around with InDesign and change things.
I love that. Hey, that's a really good excuse to like stick to a deadline. Like, you know what? I'm not opening up that design again. I'm not doing it. Like, I mean, it got it out.
Yeah, it did. And you know, I can't speak better of Blurb at all. Like, I've been really happy with how they've done, and I've seen several other projects that have gotten released on Blurb. And if you're thinking of doing like zines or photo books or anything, like that's a great platform to utilize.
Yeah, definitely. I did check it out a bit after I bought your book, and it got me thinking a little, because I would like to create some more collaborative projects, like put something out that also gets like where I get to highlight and like bring attention to like other people too, so that it isn't just about me. I would love to like make things all about me periodically, but I do think that would be also really amazing to get to find like a common thread to then like create around, and be able to bring other people in on it. So that's something I've definitely been noodling a little with.
Yeah, and that kind of stuff is really great. Like that was something that Becca did with Northern Film Collective last year. Was putting out the volume 1 of Canadian film photography, and volume 2 is pending. Like she's got all the submissions, but again, like the pandemic has weared all of us down a bit, and we're all sort of stretched thin. So it's hard to. It's hard to maintain creative practice sometimes in all of this. Like, how have you been finding that for yourself?
Not good. Not good at all. It's really hard to be able to upkeep because like accessing creative energy, like that brain space, it's really hard to do when you're like, we're all kind of collectively in this like survival mode, and it's really hard to access creative energy when your sort of brain is just like trying to stay like with it,
Yeah.
So I've definitely struggled with my creative practice, and I'm trying to like carve out more space, trying to make it like a little more enjoyable, take a little bit of pressure off. But it's been really hard. And I really want to create more this year. Last year, I definitely did not make as many things as I would have liked, and I'm hoping to change that. But I'm also just not holding myself to any sort of specific schedule or standard with it, because I just can't. So I'm not going to.
Chris says, I tricked my brain with booze to think it's safe. That's big 2020 vibes right there, buddy.
Oh, yeah. A little bit, eh?
Yeah, we all became alcoholics a little bit.
She drinks a beer. I'm like, yeah. Yeah, absolutely, though.
Yeah, it's, I don't know. You're totally right, because we all kind of are in this, like, collective survival mode. Is like, our worlds are still somewhat on pause as everyone's trying to figure out what the fuck is happening. And it is so hard to like, be like, I want to think of cool things when you're like, I don't really even want to get out of bed today.
Oh yeah, for sure. Or if you're just like, I need to do a thing that makes me money so that I at least don't lose my apartment, like that's like where I'm at a lot of days, where I'm like, ugh, I can't do this. I just need to do like things so that I have like work coming in or whatever. And it's hard to like also do the fun things, when you're in that zone.
It is. And that was like, I guess one of the probably naive hopes I had from like the initial part of the pandemic when, people were just getting paid to stay at home, was like, I kind of hoped that the government would realize, hey, this is actually not really a bad idea when you consider how much is spent on other social programs and things like that, to like just give people a living wage so they don't have to be stressed out about existing. Because it was really interesting, like talking to friends, being like, that we're doing the CERB thing and stuff, that were like, holy shit, like this is the first time I've actually been able to like not feel stressed out. And like some of them were even able to save a bit of money because, they were actually getting paid more to be on CERB than they were from their jobs, which speaks volumes about how shitty our employment situation is for a large group of people in our country.
Yeah, considering $2,000 is not a lot, especially if you're in a city, like it's not a lot, but yeah, like it's still, it was great. I definitely was super productive for like a small spell early on. I created like a small series during the early stages of the pandemic because I had that space, and I didn't have to stress about paying my rent, and we were kind of in limbo. And it was like I was able to access that creative space and be like chill about it. But it's different. It's much different now because we're in a limbo that is like theoretically never ending kind of thing.
Well, yeah, like that's the reality is that this virus is not going anywhere anytime soon, and so it's just we need to learn how to adapt our society to just live with it instead of throwing tantrums about it.
Mm.
You know?
Yeah.
It's yeah. Yeah, I was
I'm
just
gonna hit the buzzer on that. I feel like we should move to a different topic.
yes.
I don't want to talk about this.
No,
Just because I think we all talk about it so much and it's so easy to slip back into it.
it is. You're right.
Let's move.
Moving on. So, what are some things that you've been thinking about wanting to try that you haven't worked on yet, or like things that are sort of like, you know, ideas that are just like tickling the fringes of your mind right now?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't have anything that like is jumping to mind immediately. Like I have a notebook full of ideas in terms of self-portraits that I want to explore, like art concepts that I want to create. I don't know. I don't know. I don't have anything specific that's jumping to mind. I do know that I want to create, like when I was mentioning earlier about a collaborative work, I have thought about, like, I really want to create a collaborative work amongst fat creators, like artists or photographers. Like, ideally centering fatness as well as subject matter, like in terms of the creators and also the subject matter. Like, I want that to be the whole thing. But I haven't really fleshed out where I'd want to see that go or like how I'd want it to come together. But it's something that I do want to kind of keep like percolating about because, you know, sometimes it's like one or the other. Like I see fat artists centered about art that's not about fatness. Fine. It's not like it all has to be. And also sometimes there's a lot of fat art made by people who aren't fat. And I just want to see like both at once, you know, I like to be a focus point for something like maybe like a zine or like something or a zine. Zine? Is it zine or zine? I said it both ways during this.
I think zine maybe? I'm not sure.
It's magazine, probably. Because when I look at the word, I think zine. Anyway,
it does look like zine when you look at it. I can totally see that there.
Oh, and I would really like to create a small series of weird fucking art around my cat. Honestly, I do. Like, I want to create some like weird shit. I don't know if she's still on this. She joined earlier, but my best friend Hannah, she made this like ridiculous digital art piece. Like she's an illustrator of Theodore, like with these like big jacked up arms, and it's so ridiculous. And I just like want to make some weird art where he's like the center point and photoshopping him into some weird things. I mean, that's a totally silly project, but it will bring me joy.
Yeah, like when you said that, I kind of pictured like Renaissance Theodore.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Especially with the face he's giving right now. That would be a perfect sort of like...
Absolutely. I very much imagine some like Renaissance vibes. Maybe him being treated like a lord, you know?
Yeah.
He is a sir after all.
You could have him like dressed up like a knight or something in one of them. Like,
absolutely. These are great ideas. I'm gonna put it in the book for his. I just think like it's one of those weird things too that like I don't know, animal stuff is always so successful, like in terms of like not to be that I make any decision from a content creation standpoint, but animal stuff goes like gangbusters. So I do have that thought where I'm like, people will love it. Like they'll love seeing weird ass art of my big fluffy cat.
Yeah, I would buy that book.
Yeah, right? Give the people what they want.
He's like, why are you poking me for, lady? He's great. I mean, those are great ideas. I really like the idea about like, the finding a way to like, focus and encourage more work around like, fatness and stuff, because it does have a heavy stigma around it still, which is not cool.
Yeah, absolutely, it does.
Yeah. It's like, I'm not a very big person, but I still feel weird about taking photos of myself and when people take photos of me.
I get that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard. Like, yeah, there is still so much stigma, of course. And I've seen the way that my exploration of myself in my work has had an effect on people. Like, having people reach out to me about how, like, they see themselves, you know, like people who have bodies that look like mine are like, I don't see a lot of bodies that look like mine, and your body reminds me of mine, and I look at this and I feel good, you know? And like that effect is so powerful, because it's definitely the thing that's helped me get to a place, is seeking that out elsewhere. So it's been really important for me seeing that effect kind of ripple out, and like it makes a big difference. It really still is very important. And I would love to be able to find a way to like bring more like diversity of it together, so it isn't just like me doing it all. Like, I want to highlight there's such a variety of fat artists, and like and variety of like experiences lived in different kinds of fat bodies, and I'd like love to be able to bring all of that kind of together for people to see in a way that is like joyful and positive, and isn't like, I don't want it to feel like difficult or challenging to peruse. Like, I want it to feel joyful and good, and like just like a really positive experience to like look through it.
Yeah, I think that's like very important work, and like I've found that a lot of your work has like been very powerful to look at and to consume, because it just like, it's coming from a different perspective, and it's very different from like the norms, like when you're scrolling through the Instagram and you just see like all of the regular stuff, and you kind of start to become numb to all of that because it's normal. And then like your work very much stands out, and it's very powerful and empowering. And I like seeing that. And just even like yesterday I was scrolling through TikTok, because I don't scroll through Instagram as much anymore, but like, I will admit that like I fuck around with TikTok a lot more than I probably should. But there's this dude that ended up on my For You page, and he's like a rather husky lad that likes doing sexy dances, and he's just so happy about it. I was just like, God damn, like, he's getting me all excited. I want to do some sexy dances now.
Absolutely. Like, that effect is so important. Like, especially if you're in a body that you're not used to seeing reflected in the world around you in a positive way. Yeah. Because like, we see fat people in media, and they're often portrayed as like stupid and lazy and full of strife. Even if it's like positive, it's still based around a story of strife about them like struggling with their body or overcoming this or like whatever. Like so much of it can be very heavy and bad and negative, and not in a way that feels good. So seeing that's so simple. Seeing someone just dancing around feels like, objectively speaking, it's very basic. Mm-hmm. But like, you're not used to seeing that. I'm seeing your body there dancing and moving and feeling joyful, and it's like, it's a very powerful feeling, and it allows you to like reframe how you look at yourself. Like, I find myself, the journey to feeling good about your body is not a straight line. So I still struggle a lot with, like, I have my days where I feel real shitty. And like, when I come across, like, I've made a real effort to diversify the bodies that I view in the media as much as I can in the corners I can control. And when I come across art or photos of bodies that look like mine, and I look at them and I'm like, oh my God, I love this. This looks great, beautiful. I'm like, if I can look at this objectively and be like, that kind of reminds me of me, and I can feel so good about it, then like, I can also do that in the mirror, And it like, it does make a difference, and it does help the way that we look at ourselves. And it's interesting that you mentioned too, specifically seeing like a fat dude, because like, I had someone respond to me the other day to one of my posts talking about how like he like really loves following me and like people similar to me that he mentioned as well. And he's like, it's, you know, it's really good. It makes me feel good. But I like wish I saw more of this of me, like, because he's a man and he's like, he doesn't see himself reflected in what he's viewing. And like it's like, because I get so focused on like, you know, one area of fat liberation, it's really easy to forget that it's like not an experience that is determined by gender. Like we all experience that feeling if we're in a larger body. And I was like, wow, yeah, of course. Like you aren't seeing as many people, like as many men that look like you, just like existing happily or making art about themselves or whatever. And that's definitely been like rattling around in my brain of like, okay, so like, here's a gap that exists. Like, how can I contribute to filling it? I don't know. But I do think there's something there. And I'm really, it's fortuitous timing for you to mention that. Like, I'm really happy to hear that, like, you were able to come across that and that it, like, had that effect. Because it's so important.
It absolutely is. And I think, like, you know, there's probably not as much content for you know, males and people that identify as male, because there's a lot more sort of like stigma with that, where it's just like the portrayal of like, you know, the manly man kind of thing is such a insidious, toxic fucking sham. Like it's a mind fuck for sure. And the last time I was in Toronto, a friend and I did a photo experiment, and one of the things that I've been making more of an effort to do is when I'm shooting with people, when I have the opportunity to work with another creative that like can also, you know, take pictures too, I like to sort of flip it around if they're open to it, to be like, okay, like, you're getting me to take pictures of you, like, would you be open to taking like pictures of me? Because if I'm wanting people to be comfortable to take pictures with me, then I should be comfortable with other people taking pictures of me. Because I don't like the idea of it being all so one-sided, where it's just like, you know, when you think about like, you know, most photographers, like, and yeah, all of us say the same thing. It's like we like being behind the camera more than we like being in front of it. And I've been working to make more of a conscious effort to sort of reduce that. But I just still found myself so uncomfortable trying to like get into that sort of the mindset of getting into those photos, because it's just like all of those things, like, you know, 40 odd years of like fucking indoctrination of like what you're supposed to act like, what you're supposed to look like, all these things. Like, you know, I know better than all of those things, but like they still they still come back and kind of like, you know, get your confidence and make you start second guessing yourself, and then all of a sudden you're feeling uncomfortable. And, you know, it's like, I was a tiny bit disappointed with how the pictures came back, because I could see that like rigidness and that like discomfort. And he's like, lady, pay attention.
He's like, pay attention to me. I'm going to scratch up your chair. Sorry, continue.
No, it's fine. But it was interesting, like when I got the pictures back, and I could just see that like the discomfort and the like, you know, self-confidence and whatnot. And yeah, I think that's something more people need to work on. And it's also just crazy, like how ingrained these things have become into us, where it is acceptable to like, you know, have these feelings towards larger people about them, like, you know, being stupid or like whatever. Like, fuck, my folks still like talk about like weight and all of this shit all the time, and like I shut it down when they start bringing it up, because it's just like, you know, look, I've struggled with like weight stuff, but like when I was like younger, when I first left the house, I would catch myself sometimes like judging people, because that's like what I grew up with. It's like, you know, fucking judge people. And I just remember this one time I was at the IKEA in Coquitlam in like, it must have been like 2004 or something. And I saw this like large dude just like fucking having a time with some cake. And the like sort of judgment shit from like my childhood and stuff just like immediately like went to like this like terrible judgment of this person. And then I was like, wait a minute, you fucking like cake. If you had a piece of cake in front of you, you'd just be as fucking happy as that guy is right now. Why are you shitting on this guy for like enjoying cake when you also enjoy cake? Like, and that's always stuck with me, is just like we're all the same, even though we all look different. And
Absolutely.
it's just shitty that like well, it's not just, it's really shitty that like people take prejudice and abuse other people just because they look different. And that can be like assigned to a plethora of different things, not just fatness, but
Of course. Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course, it's like a very large area that exists. That's like all different intersections of kind of like marginalization. Yeah, it's wild because the more, you know, the more work I dig into, like my like you know, dismantling the anti-fatness within myself, like and the more we learn collectively about it, it's like so obvious. So much of it comes down to like, a lot of it comes down to like capitalism and racism, like both of those, like like, because the diet industry is huge. Like literally, it's like a massive money-making machine. So it's really profitable to make people hate themselves. And like in anything else in the world, if something had like, I don't know, I can't remember what the exact stat is, but like 90% fail rate or something for diets, like anything else, we wouldn't give it the merit we do diets. But because it's around fatness, it's just like all these things go out the window where we don't like think critically enough about the information, and not like, and I mean, when you're sold this idea of like what people are supposed to look like, or like what it's supposed to feel like to be thin or whatever, and also when you pair that with the way that generally speaking we treat fat people, it like makes perfect sense that people fight so hard to not look like us. You know?
Yeah, and
like
the thing that's wild about it is like you look at the Rubenesque period, like, you know, there's been periods of time where like, you know, fat people were like lauded and like worshipped. And you know, like gout used to be like a royal disease or something, because it's like if you got gout, that meant that you were like fucking flying high and you were rich and you can like eat all of the best foods. So it's like people wanted to get gout, which that kind of blows my mind.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, like it's just it's definitely weird. You said anti-fat, and it for some reason made me think of those like sweatshirts and stuff that you see where it's like anti-social social club. It's like, what about like an anti-fat fat club?
I like it. Yeah, no, we need that because like, as like you, okay, so this just the experience you described of running, like, you know, seeing this fat man in public eating cake and enjoying his life, like had such a visceral response for you because like obviously you have also been dealing with the same pressures of like viewing fat bodies as being negative, obviously experiencing the way that people treat you because of your body. Like there's so much internalized anti-fatness that has to get detangled, as well as like trying to, you know, hopefully affect change around you in your circles, in like, you know, your family or whoever, like when you're trying to like have people look a little differently at things. There's also so much internally because you're so used to like hating yourself, feeling these things must be correct because so many people feel them about you, etc. There's so much there that has to get like unlearned, and it's a challenge.
I agree, and your like point on diet programs and stuff, like Jesus, they're awful. Like, I get it works for a lot of, like, for some people, not a lot of people, but like, you know, some
Some.
people can make it work. And there was a period in my life where I went through a plethora of diet programs in the pursuit of losing weight. And I did at one point lose a ton of weight, and I was like, you know, back down to like the fucking size I was when I was like in 18 or whatever, and I could wear like, I used to travel, like when I moved around, I would have like clothes that one day, if I could fit in them again, I would be a worthy human
Aspirational
being
sizes.
again. Yeah, I got rid of that shit a long time ago. Like, you know, now it's just about comfort and shit I can fit into.
For sure.
But I just, you know, that I was such a miserable cunt when I was on those diet programs that I just, you know, one of them was super successful. And it was a really fucked up one because it was like this human like growth hormone thing, or so. You took these drops every day, and then you were only allowed to eat 700 calories.
So you were starving yourself. That's why it was so successful.
Yeah, so I don't even know if there was like a hormone, or like, it could have just been like water in the fucking bottles where they're like, just, yeah, take this and only eat 700 calories, and like
children are supposed to have like, I don't know, like double that. Like,
yeah, well, and it's like my partner at the time was also into the programs, and you know, a few times got mad at me that I was losing weight faster than she was, and so I ended up having to like sabotage myself when I was on diet programs sometimes, where I'd go like eat secret cheeseburgers because like I didn't want to like weigh less than her at the way out and get in trouble about it.
this is not a unique experience. Like, I've heard this from other friends who have been in similar situations where they're both like dieting, and it's such a thing. Like, it's because there's so much pressure. Like, and then there's that feeling. So it worked for you because starving yourself was successful, and it didn't work for her for whatever reason, probably for good reason. But it brings on this feeling of like, I can't even do this right. Like, I also can't lose weight right, or starve myself correctly. It like brings in such like a variety of feelings. It's like, yeah, no, it's fucked up. I'm really happy to hear that you ditched your aspirational clothing. That's an excellent step.
Yeah, I kind of made a decision like 8-9 years ago that I'd rather be fat and happy than skinny and miserable. Like,
Absolutely.
you know, food is fucking awesome. I love food.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, it's like, yeah, it's not, yeah, I don't know. I just like, I had to accept a long time ago that, like, you know, I starved the hell out of myself, and I did lose a good bit of weight, but I was still fat, and I still experienced the same issues, and like, I was never gonna, like, I'm never gonna be, my body is never gonna be small. It's just like not gonna happen. And I'm not going to spend so much time and effort and mental space that I could put towards like literally anything else.
Exactly.
Like anything else. And like, no.
And it's also just interesting the emotional labor and space that strangers put towards people. Like, it kind of blows my mind sometimes, like how people can be so upset by people they don't even fucking know.
It blows my mind.
Yeah, it's just like, you know, calm your jets, man.
Yeah, I've like moved into a space where when people give me this reaction, I'm just like, I don't know why you're so obsessed with me, but like, get some hobbies. Like, yeah. I don't, like, why? And I mean, I know that when it comes down to some of it, it's that feeling of like, when it's people who aren't fat and they see fat people existing happily and joyfully, like, they don't feel that way. And they could never imagine feeling that way, looking like we do. And they obviously do not feel that way about themselves at present and are probably still caught in that mindset of like, even though they're not what we would consider fat, like they view themselves as fat and they still view themselves as unworthy. And so seeing someone who's larger and happy and not feeling those pressures, not feeling shitty about themselves, it's just like, I couldn't imagine feeling like that and looking like you. So like, how dare you? How dare you be so happy? And like, there's that like sentence that gets thrown around a lot with that, which is that like, by being like that, you're like promoting obesity and promoting this promoting fatness or whatever. It's fucking just ridiculous. And like, it just really comes down to people just like, they can't fathom not hating themselves. They're just like, I couldn't imagine looking like you and not wanting to die, you know, because that's such a thing. Like there are stats about the way that people would give up years of their life if it meant existing in like their ideal body, like not being fat, or like, you know, giving up. Like there are people who have like, they've done surveys about people who would rather like die than be fat, you know, like it's like the worst thing they could possibly imagine, you know? So it like doesn't surprise me getting those visceral reactions because I know these things. But at the same, on the other side, I just like get some perspective and some hobbies and like just like go away. I don't know. Like, I don't know. That's very aggressive. And I don't actually say this to people, but that's what I feel inside, just that they need to just like go away and get some hobbies. Like, I don't know, if you're so bothered by seeing like my tummy, like, I don't know, I'll just tell you, there's just so many worse problems in the world than my tummy.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, because I have a very negative self-image of myself. And it's a lot better than it used to be, but it's still pretty awful. So I guess that says a lot about. It's interesting though, like hearing the exact opposite from like other people and partners and stuff, where it's just like, I don't know if I believe you because I don't believe it.
Like believe that you can feel good.
No, that like, you know, so I don't think that like I'm like a good looking person by like standards or everything, because like, you know, I'm whatever, all of the things. So when people say something that's contradictory to that, like, you know,
I see.
I struggle with believing that, because it's just like, are you just saying that to be nice because like, you know, I'm a heinous monster?
I see where this is going. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one that like, you know, even as someone who is pretty, like, I'm a pretty confident person, and I'm like, I definitely have a lot of like, I still struggle with my self-image, but I like feel really good about myself like most of the time. Like I also experience that feeling. So I get it. Like it's hard. I'm in a space where like, I'm like, yeah, I feel good about myself, but I don't trust you or anybody else to feel positively, because the world has told me that people hate me because of my body. Like that's a really hard thing to shed when you're used to getting that message over and over again. It's like, okay, I hear you, but I've been told that you're wrong, so I just don't know how to not think you're wrong, or you're lying, or that you're not being truthful, or that you're just trying to mind my feelings, you know? So that's a really tough one to like ditch, and I don't know, I'll let you know when I get there, because like I still feel like I probably demand a lot of reassurance from partners, because I have a hard time trusting that people are earnest. So like when it comes to that, so I hear you on that. I'm honestly impressed that 6 people still want to listen to us talk about fatness when we're supposed to be talking about photography. As a side note, I'm like, bless you, 6 people.
Well, I mean, so the chats, it's called photography chat, but, you know, truth be told, I don't really want to talk about like the regular things that like all of the other like YouTube channels and podcasts and shit talk about, where it's like, tell me what your favorite focal length is, like what kind of film stock do you like to use, like, do you jerk off to Leicas in your
question, so.
yeah, and it's like I'm still trying to figure out what this platform is, but what I do know it is that it's access to people. And when I realized that like I have this access to people that typically most people don't get access to, I wanted to be able to learn more about the person and like what they're about and like what drives them and what interests them and what they're passionate about, than what kind of gear they like using, or like, do they like shooting landscapes or this and that. So I use the photography chat as like a way to be able to meet interesting people, because I can't really do that in the world today.
For sure. No, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So it's loosely about photography, but a lot of the chats have gone off into interesting conversations, this being one of them.
For sure. And I mean, like, fatness definitely informs my work. Like, it's the center point of the things that I want to create, because it's something that directly affects me and I feel passionately about, like, destigmatizing. So I mean, it's not related, obviously, but that's good to know. And I'm glad, because like I also don't know. I have like two lenses. Every time I answer questions from photographers, like, because I have like, I don't know, a good setup and I don't know, the kinds of things I do, sometimes photographers will talk to me and like try to talk to me about gear. And I'm just like, I've got like two lenses. I still use speed lights for things. Like I'm like studio trained and I know how to use it, but like I'm pretty basic in a lot of ways, and I don't actually enjoy talking about gear at all. It's one of my least favorite things to happen on dating apps, is when like people find out I'm a photographer and they're like, oh my God, can we like talk about gear? And I'm like, I wish that we wouldn't. Like, because I don't care about, like, I don't really care about what you shoot with, or I would rather hear about, I'm happy to talk about photography and your work or whatever, but like, I don't give a crap about gear, and I just like, I'm not the person to talk about that with. So
yeah, and you don't really want to open up the door to be like mansplained about camera
honestly
stuff.
Oh, it happens all the time, and I just like, I'm like, oh, I just don't even care. Yeah, you can think you're better than me, that's fine. I don't care. I don't care if you are or aren't. Like, it doesn't bother me. But like, this happened recently on a dating app where someone was like, oh my God, you're a photographer? Can we talk gear? And I was like,
no.
Do we have to? I don't want to. It didn't go very far, I'll tell you. That conversation fizzled out pretty quick.
Oh, dating. So much fun.
So much fun. A blast. Especially in a pandemic. A blast. The best.
Yeah, like, it's been interesting, like, adjusting to the new world and how different it is in different places. So it's like, I have a ton of friends in the States that I love and I miss dearly, that, some of them I haven't seen them since like, late 2019. And for them, even though the pandemic is still, raging madly down there, it's more or less open. Like they can, do things, they can travel freely, they can go do whatever they want. And there's a big Polaroid thing happening in San Francisco next month, which everyone's like, you're going to be there, right? And I'm like, no, I want to be there, but like, no, we're still in a pandemic, man. Like, when I started looking, because I wanted to go, and I was hopeful. I was so fucking hopeful. Like, right before Omicron shat all over us, and the government was talking about possibly removing the requirement for testing, because most of us were vaxxed, and so it should be safe. Then Omicron, and then it went from 72 hours to 24 hours, and like I priced out like how much it was going to cost for like the testing and stuff, and just in testing alone it was going to cost me almost as much as I was going to spend on the whole damn trip. And then it's like, what if you test positive while you're down there? Then all of a sudden your trip just got a whole lot more expensive. And I was just like, as much as I'd love to see you guys, that is a risk that I'm not comfortable taking right now.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. It's totally fair.
Yeah. It's a bummer though, because, you know, I'm going to have like mad FOMO when I'm seeing all the stories and shit.
No, just don't look at them. Don't look at them. I hide things all the time, do things all the time. Like, truly, I do. It's like self-care. I'm like, nope, mute it. No, I don't want to see it. I don't want to see you traveling. I don't want to see this. No, just no.
If you could do anything right now, like if anything was on the table and everything was possible, what would you do?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know, honestly. I mean, right now I'm supposed to be in Winnipeg visiting my friend, but I had to cancel my trip because things got like fucked, and I just was like, no. So I would love to be there right now, truly. Like, I'd like to be in Winnipeg presently with her. That would be nice. Yeah. So probably that.
She must be a really important friend for you to want to go to Winnipeg, and it's still kind of wintertime.
Yeah, I'm probably moving to Winnipeg. So
oh shit, really?
Like, I'm gonna brave it for the rest of my life, theoretically.
Really?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I'm just like, I was intending to already be on that track to moving. I was gonna give up my apartment and be a bit nomadic and go visit her, go do some stuff, and then move there in the spring, summer. So I don't really know what's happening with things, just because I'm kind of just taking things as they come. You know, like, we don't really know what's happening one day to the next right now, so I'm not making a lot of plans, but
that's fair.
Theoretically I intend to be there like this year. So
Winnipeg's a cool city. Like, I with the work that I've done over the years, I've had the opportunity to travel a lot through like Canada and North America, and you know, as much as people shit on Winnipeg, it's not the worst place to be. I mean, the weaker thens have that. What's that?
Brad.
Yeah, it is. I always think about the Weaker Than song though. It's like, I hate Winnipeg.
Like, I'm sure it's not perfect in like Manitoba. Like, it's, you know, I mean, Ontario is also a dumpster fire politically, but like, you know, it's another city in a conservative province in Canada. But like, Winnipeg in general, like, it itself is like pretty progressive, has a really cool art scene. It has a lot of great stuff. It has, and like, for me, it has people that I love, and I don't see myself staying in Toronto very much longer. Like, even if I wasn't moving there, like, even before I made that decision where I was like, I think this is the thing I want to do, I was like, oh, I don't know how much longer I can stay in Toronto. Like, I don't see it kind of being like long term, just because of the things I do, of the people I know, like, and like what I'm doing in Toronto. I'm just like, I don't know. It costs so much to live here, and I just don't think I'm getting out of it what I need to feel like it's worth. I love Toronto, don't get me wrong, but I just don't see myself here long term anymore. Yeah,
it is kind of expensive there for sure. Like, it's
I mean, you're in like Vancouver, so right? You're in Vancouver, or?
Well, so I am in Vancouver, but I kind of like won the lottery with where I moved to here, because I get like such phenomenal rent in the place that I'm living in. Even with the studio that I've taken on recently, I'm paying just about as much as I was for my apartment in Toronto to have like my basement apartment in the studio here in Vancouver.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it kind of worked out nicely. I was a little surprised by that. Now, if I was paying what regular rents are here in Vancouver, That would not be, I couldn't afford that. The rents here are just for goddamn ridiculous.
Yeah, I think it's the most expensive city in the country, right? I think Vancouver is.
I think it got most expensive city in North America.
Yeah, I was going to say that, and then I was like, is that right? That seems like a heavy sentence.
It beat everybody. and it's just, yeah, it's so expensive. And everything's a little bit more expensive here too. Like, and I mean, BC's always been that way though. Like, I remember when I was a kid and we first moved here from Alberta, people would always make jokes about BC where it's like BC stands for bring cash because everything's more expensive here. So it's not a new thing. It's just, cost of living has gone up across the board everywhere and wages have not.
Yeah, for sure.
Is fucking dumb, people need to pay more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or we just need to become an actual like socialist government or whatever and give everyone a living wage.
Wonderful ideas.
It would be a fucking terrific idea, and it would probably be more cost effective for the government to do that than, all the shit that they do currently. Like, it's
absolutely.
And just think about how much more art and creation would happen when people aren't stressed about just living. Like, that's something that I've thought about for a long time, is like, why doesn't the government invest in its people? Because how many amazing ideas or innovations for anything are just like languishing and dying in like Starbucks and offices and fast food joints, where like people that have amazing potential but don't have the ability to apply it anywhere because they're just trying to live. Yeah, this is why I can't sleep at night sometimes, because I think about these kinds of things and it's just like,
I know.
Just go to bed. It's like, yeah, but what about this?
I know, I get that.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I feel very lucky to be able to be able to practice some kind of like creative thing and share it with people and have people support it. It still blows my mind that anyone was interested in buying like any of the books that I've put out.
Of course they'd be interested.
Yeah, but there's that whole like imposter syndrome thing that we all love and adore.
I know. I feel it all constantly. I understand. I mean, I get why you feel that way, but I obviously think that you're wrong. But like, I get why you feel that way.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I've definitely been feeling it super hard since the studio too, because like, I'll be super honest for a minute. I am not as excited as I thought I was going to be about the studio. And it's kind of made me more feel like an imposter than anything else has before.
Okay.
Which is weird. I don't really know how to unpack that one.
Yeah, I mean, that's hard. Is it because like it's like not aligning with your expectations of what you were going to do with it? Or is that you don't feel that you are capable of carrying out what you want to do?
I think it's more like a maybe I'm not worthy of it kind of thing. Because like the space itself is cool. Like it's everything I could have ever asked for. I almost like, if it wasn't so dank when I got it, I probably would have left it looking like the old motel room that it was, because it kind of had like a cool aesthetic to it. Except that all of that stuff just needed to be gone and burned. Like it was pretty gross.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's neat, and like I'm hoping like as I spend more time there, it'll get to be a bit more interesting, because there's a lot of other interesting creatives that are in that space too. Like I've met a few other photographers and some videographers and fashion designers, industrial designers, textile makers. Like it's a couple tattoo artists have opened up shops in there too. Like, it's a really interesting community that is starting to form up there. So
that's really rad. It's different than what you do. Like, you don't usually have a studio, so it's like a new endeavor for you. It might just take a little bit to like feel comfy and good.
Yeah, like what I wanted it for mostly was like being able to build a dark room, because like my apartment's too tiny to have a dark room. And since I moved here, I've been looking for a studio space where I would have access to water, but none of them were very affordable. And this is surprisingly affordable, because they're going to tear it down and build a condo on top of it one day.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds right. Building your own dark room sounds great.
Yeah, it should be pretty fun. But yeah. Well, I think I ran out of questions.
Fair enough.
Was there anything that you wanted to talk about? Any questions you had for me or anything?
No, I didn't know. Was I supposed to be prepared with questions? I don't know. I'm so bad when put on the spot. I don't know. When I try to go to bed later, I'm going to think of all the things I should have asked you, but like present.
No, it's totally fine. You weren't supposed to prepare anything for this. Like, honestly, I don't prepare for these at all. Mostly because I can't really. There's just only so much capacity I have to do a lot of things now. Post accident. So I've applied the same thing I do at work a little bit to this, where at work, when I'm presenting things, I always leave my presentations a bit vague, so that if I forget something, no one knows I forgot it, because it's not on the slide.
Yeah, for sure.
Or if I need to shift to something different, it's not there, so I have like the ability to freely move. So it's like, if I want to do something different, I can. If I completely forgot and I'm fucking up, no one knows I did that. So I've sort of applied that same method here, where it's just more of like an organic chat with someone, which is something that I kind of like, because I feel like when you have like question answer kind of things where it's like all formalized, it gets like rigid and it's not as much fun.
Yeah.
You don't get to know the person better.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's a little easier to have like natural flow of conversation when you're not constrained, Yeah,
nobody likes being constrained unless that's their thing, and good for them.
Yeah. That's fine. That's like negotiated.
Exactly. Consent and safe words are very important.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me. It was really great.
Yeah.
And
Thank you
I'll probably be in Toronto in the coming months at some point, so definitely try to catch up. If not,
For sure.
I'll have to come to Winnipeg. There's some other people I want to visit in Winnipeg anyway, so
Perfect.
it's always good to have
Sounds
another
great.
excuse.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you so much for being on. I'll get Mocha
For having me.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate you agreeing to spend time with me, and I value your time very much. And everyone who came and hung out with us tonight, thank you for hanging out. I'm gonna get Mocha to play us out here, and and then next week I'm gonna have Karen Hitterman, a friend that lives in Toronto. Well, she spends time between Toronto and Montreal, but I met her oddly in the United States, and it turns out she lived in Toronto, so we became photo pals. So
Awesome.
she's going to be joining us on the chat next week, and thank you again for so much of your time, and
For sure.
everyone stay safe out there.
All right. Thanks.
All right.
Bye.
See you, Ashely.
Talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.